how do you think that open source thing fits into the enterprise landscape? Can we build a enterprise version of ChatGPT for every customer, government, institute, large enterprise? उनके लिए special हम बना सकते हैं. I'm talking specifically about for Pakistan. So for example, if Pakistan Defense, if Pakistani government sector wants to deploy these large language models using open source technologies like Meta, where does that landscape fit in for the businesses? Adil, one of the things that I really want to demystify is LLMs, LLM benchmarkings. इतने ज़्यादा वो उनकी वो nomenclature ऐसा सा है कि really want to go deeper into that how many types of these LLMs are there, और इसको ज़रा demystify किया जाए इसके क्योंकि I think people find it hard, people find it a bit intimidating इनके बारे में जानना. So I just want to, with this podcast, with this session, I really want to demystify this thing. So tell me, first of all, what is benchmarking?
Well, for layman, benchmark is the metric जिसे आप बता सकते हैं कि like एक LLM, what is it good at?
Okay.
So like there are variety of tasks, right? आपके पास टेक्स्ट समराइजेशन है, लाइक नेचुरल लैंग्वेज के जो टास्क होते हैं, आपके पास आप उससे कोड कराना चाहते हैं, देयर एबिलिटी टू एनेबल यू टू कॉल एक्सटर्नल सिस्टम्स, ये सारी जो है ना उसके कैपेबिलिटीज़ होती हैं कि एलएलएम से आप जनरली एक्सपेक्ट करते हैं.
रीजनिंग हो गई
इस तरह. सो बेंचमार्क इज़ लाइक हाउ डू यू टेल कि एक एलएलएम किस चीज़ में ज़्यादा अच्छा.
Okay, right. So benchmark में तो फिर ये होता है ना कि for example if we are going to evaluate a reasoning capability of any particular LLM, let's say Claude or Gemini or Chat, so we benchmark it against a reasoning capability of something, right?
Exactly.
तो वो फिर benchmark standards क्या हैं? वो क्योंकि मैं जब देख रहा था there are a lot of standards. So कहाँ से फिर what's the most आप कह लें कि respected standard for benchmarking? Or do we have any?
Yeah, definitely we have. लेकिन अगर आप benchmarking को समझें, benchmarking is a very straightforward practice है. How it works is you have data and then you have tasks.
Okay.
Right? तो जैसे जो है ना वो ट्रेनिंग का एक फेज़ होता है कि LLM को you prepare the data and आप उस डेटा पे ट्रेन करते हैं, then you have data for evaluation as well, जिस पे आप evaluate करते हो कि जैसे आपने इसको ट्रेन किया, नाउ डज इट प्रोड्यूस द एक्सपेक्टेड रिजल्ट्स और नॉट. सिमिलरली बेंचमार्किंग के लिए भी यू हैव डेटा एंड देन यू हैव टास्क्स. सो फॉर एग्जांपल आप क्या करते हैं कि एंड देन देयर आर 3 स्ट्रेटजीज टू दैट एज वेल. बेंचमार्किंग में प्राइमरली 3 स्ट्रेटजीज हैं. एक को कहते हैं फ्यू शॉट बेंचमार्क, राइट? अदर वन इज जीरो शॉट एंड थर्ड इज फाइन ट्यूनिंग. सो लाइक फॉर फ्यू शॉट इज लाइक कि you train an LLM on a large corpus of data, and now you want to benchmark it on, for example, how does it perform in a reasoning task. So few short में ये है कि before supplying a prompt, you provide the LLM with few examples of how a reasoning task is basically performed. Okay. Right? तो आप उसको examples
दे देते हैं,
right? और उसको बताते हैं कि so for example is it's exactly how you teach a kid, right? आप उसको कहते हैं 1 + 1 is 2, 2 + 2 is 4. So आप उसको 2 example देते हैं, and then on the third then you ask it, okay, now tell me what is 2 + 3, right? So and then you evaluate how it performed based on like those few examples. How did it learn from that? And then how it actually solved for the problem that you provide to it. So that's called
I mean, few shot.
Yeah.
Is this a fancy name of supervised learning for LLMs?
Yeah. So ये जितनी भी चीज़ें like आप जो भी इसको prompting करते हैं everything, your LLMs do not learn from that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The learning is a completely different step than actually performing these tasks. So it does not learn from the tasks it performs. Learning की step को
unlike other AI systems.
Yeah. So it's not like when you keep prompting with an LLM, it continues learning from them. वो learning का तरीका ये है कि there is something in the middle. If, for example, you have exposed an LLM through an API, and everything that you supply to it, like जो भी आपके prompts हैं, you capture those and eventually you take all those prompts and then retrain your model with those prompts. So उसी सूरत में यूज है. It's not like कि आप उससे बात कर रहे हो. It's not like humans.
Okay.
कि अभी जो मैं आपसे बात कर रहा हूँ, you keep on learning from this experience. It's not like that, right?
Okay.
So that is called like few shot. Now then there is zero shot. Zero shot is like without providing any examples, you directly supply the prompt.
Okay.
Right? So like for example, आप direct पूछ लो what is 3 plus 3?
Okay.
And what is 2 plus 3?
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And then you evaluate ki how does it perform on a zero shot prompt.
Okay.
And number third is fine tuning.
Okay.
Right? So एक LLM पहले आपके पास बहुत सारे डेटा पे ट्रेन हुआ है. Then you pick a data set जिस पे जो है ना वो LLM has not been trained well enough, right? So आप उस डेटा पे उसको फाइन ट्यून करते हो and then एक zero shot fashion में आप उसको prompt देते हो and then you evaluate for the results, right? So it demonstrates the ability के how well the LLM is the ability that it adjusts its weights to fine tuning and then the results of the prompts that you supply. So ये 3 strategies होती हैं जो use होती हैं for benchmarking, right? बट अब जो आप हैं कि अब बेंचमार्क्स है क्या, ठीक है. सो लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल देयर इज काफ़ी सारे हैं. बाइलिंगुअल स्टडी, आई डू नॉट एग्जैक्टली रिकॉल द नेम. परप्लेक्सिटी एक बेंचमार्क है, F1 स्कोर एक बेंचमार्क है. ऑल these benchmarks they basically evaluate for example things like natural language capabilities, how fast it predicts the next word, what is the latency. और latency की requirements भी different है from problem to problem. So for example reasoning में you can afford some latency, right? Like for example the speed it produces the next word with it. So for example some LLMs OpenAI can produce 3,000 tokens per second, for example, depending on the hardware it is operating on.
I just want to interject here for I understand what tokenization is, what are the tokens, but I just want you to also demystify what is tokenization. Tokens kya hai? Just a very brief overview of tokens and what is the role of those tokens into producing the output. So iske baare mein thoda sa help karo. Because there is a lot of talk on tokens when we talk about LLMs.
Yeah. For layman आप समझ लें कि अंग्रेजी की अगर हम बात करें, it's a word forms a token. ठीक है. So और इसकी एग्जांपल है like 4 characters forms a token. Okay. Right. So this
is a token.
This is a token.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
जो tokens हैं, it's all at the heart of all these large language models or language models जितने भी हैं, it's all about predicting the next word. Yeah. और ये क्या करते हैं, there are a lot of strategies to it. ठीक है. So वो जो हम training की बात करते हैं, ये they provide enough text to during the training to these transformer based models okay, it starts making sense of okay, for example somebody writes this, so the probability of is after the word this is 90%.
Okay.
Right, so it's all about probability. Okay, all the text that this language model has seen, the probability of is 90% after this.
Okay.
Right, so that's how it predicts next word, like as much as we understand it, right?
Okay.
But that's what it is.
Okay.
But ये जो large language models हम जितने भी देख रहे हैं, it's not like कि ये first attempt में next word predict कर लेते हैं. It's not like that. It takes at least 8-9 attempts for large language models to predict the correct next word that it presents to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
और जो ज़्यादा जो रिसर्च हो रही है वो इसी में हो रही है कि how to like ये 9 attempt से जो है ना इसको 8 पे लेके आए, 7 पे लेके आए, eventually in the first attempt it predicts the correct next word क्योंकि it has to form a sentence ना. So for example for completing जो या to respond to your prompt it has to form a sentence.
Okay.
अब उस sentence में it basically predicts next token और उसके बाद जो है ना supplying this is, and then predicting, okay, what's next, what's next, what's next.
So it's
Yeah.
very, I mean,
Yeah.
fascinating how just predicting the next word,
Yeah,
you are founding a language. I
exactly.
mean, इससे एक ज़बान
Yeah.
वजूद में आ जाती है. I mean,
Yeah.
how beautiful this is. कि
Yeah.
human mind कैसे करना. I mean, it's like I see LLMs try to study LLMs in a way कि I can also demystify what's going on in our brains.
Exactly.
Right? वही हम नहीं बोलते इस तरह के अगला word मैंने is बोलना है but
Yeah.
somehow probably our brains exactly work like this.
Exactly.
एक तो tokenization. Of course, I mean, next series there is मैंने tokens के ऊपर एक पूरा सेशन भी रखा हुआ है. Context window पे भी एक पूरा सेशन रखा हुआ है. But क्योंकि tokens की बात की तो मैं चाहता हूँ आप थोड़ा सा briefly context windows को भी टच करते हैं. What are context windows? हमारी जो ऑडियंस है, it's not only about developers. There are businesses हैं, बहुत से small and medium businesses भी हैं. So I really want to understand कि ये demystify हो ताकि they can take this knowledge and then try to build great products and services on top of it. उनको पता हो कि यार how powerful these technologies are जिनके बात करें. So just give me a sense of what is context window.
Yeah. So आपने सुना होगा inference के बारे में, right? Inference. It's all about inference, like how much information you can provide to the LLM in your prompt. ठीक है. It's all about, so context window is that. So for example, आपने बहुत सारे जो है ना, आपने Google Drive यूज़ की है. Google Drive has a limit to the size of the file that you can upload, right? It's just that. Okay, how much information it can process in a single prompt. It's about that. The bigger it becomes, the more opportunities you have to work with large amount of data. So for example, if you are using these LLMs to assist you in coding, the bigger your project becomes, you will start to be actually hit by the context size of the LLM. So the project becomes bigger, you have more files, you have more code there, and it's important for the LLM to know everything, and then it will produce a correct result, right? So अगर आपका context size का जो context window का जो size है वो hit होता है, that means कि now you have to decide which files to pass on and which files to skip, right? Okay. And it becomes challenging.
So जब मैं सुन रहा था Elon Musk को said कि in Tesla FSD full self-driving scenarios we have a very different challenge. We need context windows very large.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? कि उनको like self-driving car को context window, of course that's not large model, like उनकी उधर भी context window है.
तो आप ये देखें, it's hundreds of sensors in Tesla, right? और वो जो उनका जो FSD का जो पूरा जो मॉडल है, it needs a lot of situational awareness. और वो situational awareness आती किस form में? It has to process a lot of images and videos. It has to process a lot of inputs from all these sensors. Now, for an AI model to process like data from these hundreds of sensors and hundreds of video feeds and traffic awareness from satellites or APIs or anything, and like process this whole information in milliseconds, it is important that you have the ability to pass on all this information at once to the model.
So context window is the memory in the age of AI. It's a memory.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah. Like humans देखते हैं आप experiment कर लें. When you're basically turning the car or parking the car, you lower down the volume of the stereo you're playing, right? It has become a habit, but it's actually like freeing up some of the processing from your brain to actually focus on the side mirrors and the rear view mirrors and everything to better park the car, right?
Okay. So now coming back to the LLMs. So I really want to ask a couple of things about the nomenclature, what I call nomenclature. Like there are GPTs, there's a Claude. अभी मैं सुन रहा था Claude के जो CEO थे कि why it's not 4, why we keep on building capabilities within 3.5 of Claude. They don't. What does it take for Claude to say, "Nee, this is 4"? Or what does it take for why there is 4.0 and not 5? Why there is 4.0, 4 Pro for GPT? How these naming works, this naming works, number one. Is there anything underlying जो जिसके बाद हम कहेंगे, फॉर एग्जांपल जब हम GPT-5 आएगा, व्हाट डज इट मीन, क्या ये AGI आ गई है? एक तो ये चीज़ थोड़ा सा हेल्प अस अंडरस्टैंड हाउ डज दैट वर्क, और सेकंड ये भी कि what capability, I mean, I understand, I know कि जब 3 आया था, जब GPT-3, 3.5, they were very good in certain tasks, still they are, I mean, 4O भी और even Pro भी उन tasks में उतना ही good है. So what's new that's continuously these foundational companies are adding into these models in different versions? 3.5 का 4 से क्या difference है, 4O क्या है, how does that work? इसको थोड़ा सा open up करें.
अच्छा, जो अभी हम बात कर रहे थे बेंचमार्किंग की, सो ये बेंचमार्किंग क्यों किए जाते हैं? एक बेंचमार्क तो ये है कि हमारे जैसे जो इंडस्ट्री यूज़र्स हैं वो कर रहे होते हैं to grade LLMs based on their capabilities for their use cases, right? But जो AI कंपनीज हैं, जो ये लार्ज लैंग्वेज मॉडल्स बनाती हैं, वो खुद भी ये बेंचमार्किंग कर रही होती है to assess and it helps them in marketing those models as well. कि our model has now become really good at coding assignments, or has become faster at reasoning, or has become faster at natural language processing capabilities. जो जहाँ तक अब now to relate this to the naming of these products, जो भी for example GPT 3.5 था और फिर हमारे पास आया GPT 4. अब GPT 4 और 3.5 में clearly they used a lot more data and made the model much faster, like optimized the model for latency actually, and it was a big shift, and they basically jumped from 3.5 to 4.0. जो अब these are commercial models, right? अब आप देखें, अभी चैट GPT 5 नहीं आया, we have 4.0, 4.01 mini, 4.01 Pro. These are like, these models have been, आप समझ लें, tuned to special purposes, like, so O1 is very good with reasoning. O1 Pro has been designed in a way that it has access to on-demand compute.
Oh yeah, that's
so on demand. So like there is a task जो कि आप अगर O1 को देखें, so O1 takes some time, like about 7 seconds, between 7 seconds to 20 seconds to reason and come back with a response. But like O1 Pro does not take any time. It has basically saved the time by using more compute to produce the response.
इसमें मेरा क्वेश्चन, so just I think जैसा O1 है, do you think it's really about the latency? But I think जब आप O1 Pro को देखते हो, the best reasoning capability so far. So it's just like कि क्या सिर्फ 5 seconds या 10 seconds से 1 second 2 second पे आया है for that excess compute, or is it really better in reasoning? Because Ibrar was using O1 Pro and he was really stuck in this very complex piece of code, and he couldn't figure it out in Cursor. So what he did was he copied all those files and uploaded it in O1 Pro, and it actually, I mean, Cursor भी क्योंकि सारे co-pilots वगैरह use कर रहे होते हैं, they couldn't figure it out what was the issue, and then this model exactly pinpointed out that these are the 3 lines, and when Abrar actually looked at these lines before fixing it, we know, oh yeah, that was wrong. O1 Pro was very good in figuring it out, where is the issue, but the O1 या जो कर्सर के अंदर जो आपको मॉडल्स मिल रहे होते हैं उस वक्त, they couldn't. So it means कि फिर ये जो O1 Pro है, it was better in reasoning and better in understanding the situation, not just सिर्फ latency को कम ही नहीं किया. What do you think?
Honestly, I haven't used O1 Pro myself, as well as मैंने release notes भी नहीं देखे. मैंने initial like I read it कि it has access to compute.
लेकिन यहाँ पे कुछ engineers वो use कर रहे हैं.
But मैं अगर उसको बताऊँ, latency पे बात करूँ, latency is a big thing. So for example, अगर आपकी एक text summarization की का task है, probably 2 seconds 3 seconds is fine. But imagine एक AI agent है, an AI agent that is responsible for making purchase decisions or procurement decisions, or you are bidding on an item, or आप जो है ना सिचुएशनल अवेयरनेस पे काम कर रहे हो. इट बिकम्स अ मच बिगर थिंग. लाइक एज इम्पॉर्टेंट इज मोर इम्पॉर्टेंट प्रॉब्ली एक्यूरेसी, राइट. दूसरा, इफ यू आर कोडिंग, right, if you're using it for coding, you need much lower latency so that you can iterate with it. It's not necessary that the first response that you get from an LLM is the right one, right? You want to code with it, so you want low latency to actually iterate with the LLM on the code. Number third is टेक्स्ट जनरेट करना है समथिंग. अभी भी आप चैट जीपीटी देखें, इट स्ट्रीम्स words to you. So like while it's generating the response, it keeps streaming the sentences to you and you read with it while it streams, right? But code ऐसे नहीं है. Code needs to be presented to you at once. आप जब तक पूरा code from line number 1 to the last line नहीं पढ़ते, it does not make sense to you, right? So especially code में, and then if you want to execute that code, another agent is responsible for executing that code, and then another orchestrator agent needs to make a decision. The latency is an important piece.
And I think that's a very important viewpoint. I mean, at times we don't see things from the perspective from developers.
Yeah.
So I mean, of course, latency. बल्कि मैं इस पे add करूँगा. I was listening to Aravind, Perplexity के CEO. He said कि every time he वो ट्रैवल करता है तो he connects to the airplane Wi-Fi. And he benchmarks like कि perplexity airplane के Wi-Fi पे कैसा चल रहा है. That's the standard. Because airplane Wi-Fi before the Starlink, it sucks.
Yeah.
And one thing he's absolutely passionate about is how to low down the latency for perplexity. And he is just amazed by Google capabilities in lowering down the latency. So I think that makes sense कि latency कितना बड़ा piece है.
और especially AI के लिए कि most of these like ये जो LLMs हैं और जो AI models जो आ रहे हैं in बहुत जल्दी like they'll be working autonomously on complex tasks.
One of your brainchild Lens
exactly.
जो आप लोग काम कर रहे हो. Yeah, I mean, so we'll come to latency later. One of the thing is I think let's talk about quick comparison. और जो comparison है इस वक्त मैं ये देख रहा हूँ कि हमने जिस तरह for example we talk to a lot of people जिस तरह CodeNinja में तो ये access है ही, लेकिन जो यूजेज है AI का इन मॉडल्स का वो बहुत ही कम है. हमारे तो टोकन्स भी पूरे नहीं होते. हम कहते हैं यार ये तो वी वर थिंकिंग अबाउट डिफरेंट कॉन्सेप्ट कि किस तरह हम इसको लो डाउन करें, फिर कॉस्ट को अगर लोग यूज़ नहीं कर रहे. बट बिफोर गोइंग टू दिस आई ऑल्सो वॉन्ट टू आस्क कि व्हाट आर द मॉडल्स, हाउ टू चूज़ मॉडल. अगर मैं एक डेवलपर हूँ, कौन सा मॉडल मैं पिक करूँ. अगर मैं प्री सेल्स इंजीनियर हूँ, अगर मैं मार्केटियर हूँ, मैं कौन सा मॉडल पिक करूँ. क्या कंपैरिजन, क्या लेंस क्या होना चाहिए, एक तो ये. दूसरा विद रिस्पेक्ट टू वर्क प्लेसेस, इफ़ आई एम सेल्स इंजीनियर और इफ़ आई एम अ फाइनेंशियल, मैं एक अकाउंट ऑफिसर हूँ या मैं गवर्नमेंट में हूँ, आई एम नॉट अ कोडर. व्हाट आई एम सेइंग इज आई एम नॉट अ कोडर. एंड हाउ टू पिक model, because most of the, you see in our family, most of the people we think they need chat GPT and all, but their interaction with AGI and with large language models is through Meta AI, because that's been part of WhatsApp. और उस पे Meta AI, even our kids say कि यार Meta से पूछ लें, Meta से पूछ लें. How do you see कि हमारा जो interaction है इन large language model के साथ वो कैसा होना चाहिए, enterprise का, corporates का कैसा होना चाहिए, और जनरल पब्लिक का कैसा इंटरेक्शन होना चाहिए, और कैसे एक्सेस करें, हाउ टू गेट द मोस्ट आउट ऑफ दीज थिंग्स.
अच्छा, इसमें जो एक इम्पॉर्टेंट पीस है वो ये है, बिकम लाइक सो इन आवर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन we have subscriptions to ChatGPT and Claude for like about 70 people, 70 employees, and they directly use ChatGPT and Claude, and
वो दोनों यूज़ कर रहे हैं, ChatGPT और Claude.
या Claude दोनों यूज़ कर रहे हैं. And we as an organization do not know what is it that they use these models for, like इनकी interaction क्या होती है, like क्योंकि that data is very important, like that gives us the ability to to think what are the problems that they're stuck with, what are the problems that they work on, right? So the ability to have access to their data, we lose that while using these applications. ठीक है? So I've been thinking of developing a wrapper on top of
Parkstack.
yeah, Parkstack, yeah. कि एक wrapper बनाया जाए using OpenAI's APIs and Claude APIs, ये सारे मॉडल जो है ना एक ही जगह पे accessible हो for everyone, and then अब वो ये जो भी बात कर रहे हैं, then we own the data because like we'll have a layer in the middle, capture their data and actually then someday use their data to fine tune our own model, right? So जहाँ तक आपका जो back to your question कि how to pick a model, ठीक है, benchmark is the answer, and ये जो दुनिया बताती है कि Claude is very good with code, ठीक है, information कहाँ से आती है? The information comes from the benchmarking the third party does for all these models, ठीक है? So these third party benchmark results basically shows कि Claude is much better.
developer
Yeah.
तो Claude
Claude
को
use
जो
करें,
तुम
yeah.
लास्ट में अबरार से भी जब मेरी बात हुई थी,
Exactly.
सो एवरीवन इज सेइंग डेवलपर्स तो ये कहते हैं जो यूज़ कर रहे हैं इसको,
Yeah.
वो तो ये कहते हैं कि Claude is
Yeah.
the best
Yeah.
LLM for developers.
Yeah.
Understood, got it. But 90% of the people are not developers.
Exactly.
That's accepted. So there are objective based functions हैं, sales है, marketing है, workplaces में भी,
Yeah.
और generally भी small businesses हैं. Imagine people in Shahalmi
Yeah.
जो businesses कर रहे हैं. Imagine people in these bazaars. Imagine entrepreneurs and startups.
Yeah.
They're struggling with very complex problems. So for example, if you're doing a ride hailing business, it's super hard to build a ride hailing business in complex markets.
Yeah.
How these entrepreneurs, these small and medium businesses and objective based functions जो developers फॉर एग्जाम्पल नहीं है, वो फिर किस तरह करें? ठीक, जिस तरह एक मॉडल दे दिया आपने कि डेवलपर 3.5 यूज़ करे प्राइमरली, वो यूज़ करे, कैन यू कम अप विद अ सिंगल मॉडल जो बाकी सब यूज़ करें? लेट्स से व्हाट इज़ बेस्ट इन रीजनिंग, लेट्स से, क्योंकि मोस्ट ऑफ दीज पीपल वुड प्रॉब्ली भी, अगर डेवलपर नहीं कर रहे तो फिर रीजनिंग चाहिए. सो व्हाट डू यू थिंक उसमें फिर क्या हो?
So ChatGPT है, we have Gemini, आपने startups की और इनकी बात की, they can go for their own deployments of an open source model, Llama 3.1, Llama 3.2. देखिए वो the ability for them to do function calls, to reason, their context window, all these things are very important. Then latency as well, like latency in terms of like generating the first token till last token, like the amount of time it takes for each model. So this is important. लेकिन अगर जनरल पब्लिक के लिए आप,
हाँ, मैं जनरल पब्लिक,
नहीं जनरल पब्लिक के अगर आप पाकिस्तान में पूछ रहे हैं,
हाँ पाकिस्तान में,
we are releasing Parkstack in couple of weeks. आप उसी को यूज़ करें, it's gonna be priced around $10 a month.
और लोग देना, I mean I want people to use, I mean currently most of the people are using Meta AI, which is great by the way. और मेरा of course next question इस पे होगा भी, बट जनरल पब्लिक मेटा एआई को यूज़ नहीं कर पा रही टू मेक देयर वर्क ईजियर. दैट्स व्हाट दे आर नॉट एबल टू यूज़ इट. हाँ, एक जनरल आपने कुछ समराइज करवा दी चीज़ें एंड ऑल दैट, बट फॉर एग्जांपल इफ़ देयर इज एन RFP कमिंग इन, या फॉर एग्जांपल मैं चाह रहा हूँ कि जिसको मैं एक सिचुएशन दूँ और मुझे उस सिचुएशन की बेस पे मुझे वो बताए कि यार आप ऐसे कर लें, ऐसे कर लें, ऐसे कर लें. मैंने देखा कि जो O1 है वो बेहतर लगता है मुझे Gemini भी बेहतर लगता है, इट्स डूइंग इट. इसी तरह एक जनरल पब्लिक के लिए भी अगर एक मॉडल हो तो, और जो एक्सेसिबल भी, सो पीपल आर नॉट गोइंग टू पे $200 and $20 and $30. लेट्स एक्सेप्ट इट. पाकिस्तान में नहीं करेंगे.
I guess ChatGPT 3.5 is free.
Okay, हाँ वो free है.
It's free, and I think it's a good enough model.
Okay.
And it provides the ability to upload documents and create your own GPTs and
okay.
stuff. Yeah.
One last thing on this. Availability is not adaption. There is a very, very poor adaption of GPT and AI models in emerging markets, especially for example if I talk about Pakistan. Outside the workplace, even workplace पे भी बहुत कम है. It's मतलब अभी तक ईमेल्स की समराइजेशन और ईमेल्स को कैसे लिखना है उससे बाहर नहीं गई बात. Why adaption is low? Why the people are not finding, people don't know how to use it, या उसकी वैल्यू नहीं निकल रही उस तरह जिस तरह वो चाह रहे हैं. Adaption इतनी लो, adaption मतलब even in CodeNinja adaption is very low.
मुझे लगता है it's all about mindset. uh, the need to free up your time to focus on something else is something जो कि वो need लोग people do not realize that need. Like I every day think, okay, how do I free up my time by eliminating most of the work that I do every day. Like only then I can focus on something else, right? So वो ये need जब तक जो है ना ये जो जब तक ये mindset नहीं आएगा कि so for example अब हमारे पास बहुत सारे functions हैं. We have human resources, we have like a lot of people managers and everything. To think about automating some of these use cases, like एक बंदा है जिसका सिर्फ काम इन लोगों को टास्क असाइन करना और जो है ना डेली 15 मिनट की स्टैंड अप करना, हाउ एवरीबडी इज डूइंग. लाइक दिस इज अ क्लासिक थिंग फॉर ऑटोमेटिंग. और वो जो बंदा ये काम कर रहा है, दैट person should start thinking about freeing up his time or her
ये थोड़ा सा
time.
चैलेंजिंग नहीं है कि आई मीन somehow वो बंदा फिर ये सोचना शुरू करेगा देन मेरा क्या काम है, why I'm here. अगर मैं अपने सारे काम ऑटोमेट ही कर रहा हूँ सो मैं टाइम तो बचा लूँगा, देन फिर मैं इसके बाद मैं क्या करूँगा.
अच्छा, द इजी आंसर इज अगेन बिकम एन इंडिविजुअल कंट्रीब्यूटर. वो जो काम आप बाकी लोगों से करवा रहे हो, बिकम वन ऑफ देम. गो बैक टू दैट. और मेरा वैसे मशवरा भी लोगों को यही है. ठीक है,
उस पे मैंने एक सेपरेट सेशन रखा है कि इंडिविजुअल कंट्रीब्यूट व्हाई पीपल बियॉन्ड 40s नीड्स टू थिंक अबाउट IC. This is the single most important thing that I think everyone should focus on currently, because I see कि एक्सपीरियंस की बेस पे जो आप 40 से अगले 20 साल 60 तक निकालते हैं, that is long gone. The world doesn't need that sort of experience-led intelligence anymore. I mean, if someone is doubting it, start using Pro and you would know. I mean, but of course that's a very separate topic. But I think yes, इसमें मेरा एक पर्सनल मुझे ये लगता है कि there are multiple things. एक ये है कि people are struggling to ask the right question. और अगर वो right question ask नहीं करेंगे तो गलत मतलब अच्छे question का जवाब भी फिर उतना ही अच्छा है. तो अगर जैसा सा सवाल वैसा सा जवाब, तो वैल्यू रिफ्लेक्ट नहीं हो पाती. सो लेट मी गिव एन एग्जांपल. इफ समवन इज यूजिंग just using something, these models to summarize an email, summarize something, फिर तो ये उतना ही है. But if someone is thinking about actually involving these things for to predict something, कि यार अच्छा I'm doing this, what is the probability that I am wrong in this scenario? Something that's how human mental models work. That is very important. So think. Let me give you an example of Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel said, "नॉर्म पूछा कि आपकी सबसे बड़ी मिस्टेक क्या है?" So अब this is a question you can ask to LLMs as well. सबसे बड़ी मिस्टेक है. So जनरली होता है मैंने इसमें इन्वेस्ट नहीं किया, मैंने इसमें इन्वेस्ट नहीं किया, मैंने इसमें इन्वेस्ट नहीं किया. Now imagine LLM is telling you, look, तुम्हारी सबसे बड़ी मिस्टेक ये है कि तुमने फेसबुक की सीरीज बी में इन्वेस्ट नहीं किया. राइट. नॉर्मली हम देखते हैं, अभी दिस इज एन इन्वर्जन मॉडल, कि नॉर्मली लोग कहते हैं कि मुझे इसमें इन्वेस्ट मैंने किया, मुझे लॉस हो गया, इसमें इन्वेस्ट किया, मुझे लॉस. सीरीज बी में इन्वेस्ट नहीं किया. सो दिस ट्राई टू सी, आई रियली वांट टू सी इफ we can somehow find out those prompts. We can use these LLMs in a way that help us become super intelligent. हमारे mental models इतने strong हो जाएं. उसकी डिपेंडेंसी हमारे अपने क्वेश्चंस पे बहुत ज़्यादा है. तो मुझे लगता है एक तो ये बहुत बड़ा बॉटल है कि और इसलिए हिस्टोरिकली भी देखें, इट्स नॉट द आंसर, इट्स द क्वेश्चंस यू आस्क. एनीवेज, I really want to speak on open source versus closed source. So there's a lot of talk in open source versus closed source models. OpenAI, right? वो तो पूरा वो जो है. But Meta, it's been one of the story we miss is Meta. I mean, they've recently released their new model. They're just insane. I mean, incredible what they're doing with it. And उन्होंने जो cost है token की वो dramatically reduce करती है. Where does Meta fits into whole scenario? Because we talk about Claude and we talk about GPTs and Grok and all, but Meta is really running the show behind the scenes. What do you think about Meta? What do you think about open source?
Absolutely. जो Meta की डायरेक्शन है कदर डिफरेंट है बाकी ओपन एआई और इनसे the direction they're taking is they're building these models. They make them open source so that other scientists and researchers can study जो algorithms वो use कर रहे हैं, जो foundational models जो वो use कर रहे हैं, they can provide feedback and they basically take that feedback and in next iteration makes their models better. And they're very clear on involving the open source community and actually evolving the large language models landscape. So they're big on open source, and I think कि जो true जो innovation आएगी, cutting edge जो भी चीज़ आएगी वो open source से ही आएगी.
600 million downloads.
Yeah.
Oh,
So वो उधर से आएगी ज़्यादातर open source.
Open source.
Yeah. Second जो चीज़ है Meta scientifically भी has employed a lot of engineers and scientists to try out different models. For example, transformer models की different variations and the number of layers they use in basically evolving these models. So they're trying out different things.
So coming back to open source, by the way, you built your career on top of open source technology. You're one of the, I think, अगर पाकिस्तान में बात करें, the top contributor in these in open source space. One of the things I really want to ask is there's a lot of talk about national sovereignty, sovereign AI. हम भी जब एंटरप्राइज के साथ काम करते हैं तो द फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन दे आस्क इज़ हमारा डेटा आप इसको जो आप यूज़ कर रहे हैं वो कैसा है एंड ऑल दैट, इज़ इट ऑन प्रैम ऑन क्लाउड. फिर दूसरा क्वेश्चन होता है कि आप किस तरह इसको यूज़ कर रहे हैं, हमारे डेटा का क्या होगा एंड ऑल दैट. हाउ डू यू थिंक दैट ओपन सोर्स थिंग फिट्स इनटू द एंटरप्राइज लैंडस्केप? कैन वी बिल्ड enterprise version of ChatGPT for every customer, government, institute, large enterprise? उनके लिए special हम बना सकते हैं. I'm talking specifically about for Pakistan. So for example, if Pakistan Defense, if Pakistani government sector wants to deploy these large language models using open source technologies like Meta, where does that landscape fit in for the businesses?
I mean, the answer is open source. You need to pick one of these open source models, open weights models. आप उसको commercially भी use कर सकते हैं, आप उसको internal भी use कर सकते हैं. Deploy that model, create applications on top of that. You can even fine tune them, even you can post train them based on your own data. Otherwise, the general purpose open source models are good enough to start with. So वो जो enterprise की वो जो sensitivity about data
की जो है security की,
that has been answered by these open source models.
Okay. And जो एक of course एक जो चीज़ हमने मैं इस पे further डिस्कस करना चाहूँगा कि जो डेटा चैलेंजेस हैं when it comes to enterprise data और उस डेटा के चैलेंजेस को जब आप LLM को लेकर आए, सो देयर इज़ अ कंसर्न बिटवीन CIOs या जब हम ये गवर्नमेंट जो डिपार्टमेंट्स हैं उनसे भी बात करते हैं, दे वेरी कंसर्न अबाउट डेटा कि हमारे डेटा का क्या होगा. मैं उस पर चाहता हूँ उस पर थोड़ी सी और डिस्कस किया जाए कि हाउ कैन एन एंटरप्राइज और बिजनेस कैन एड्रेस दोज चैलेंजेस इवन इफ इट्स एन ओपन सोर्स. तो वो चैलेंजेस फिर कैसे एड्रेस होंगे? आई मीन बिकॉज आई थिंक एट द एंड ऑफ द डे data is the only thing that matters. Up to, I mean, there's no competitive edge you have other than the data. अब तो यही रह गया कि software development is super fast, कोई digital transformation का कोई edge नहीं है. It's basically it's the data. So how do you think businesses can really find their competitive edge by making sure their data is secure? So for example, Palantir built the company out of that. They made sure just one thing, their enterprise data is secure when they are doing AI work. How do you think enterprises can make sure this thing?
By hosting their own models.
Okay.
These open, like they can start with these open source models, host their own models. Nothing leaves their premise. So even वो अगर cloud पे भी करते हैं, they own the data. जैसे मैंने पहले भी आपको बताया कि when you interact with a model, it does not learn anything from it. ठीक है, वो जो डेटा प्राइवेसी के जो कंसर्न्स होते हैं वो ये होते हैं, सो यू आर यूजिंग चैट जीपीटी और देयर एपीआई, so they have their infrastructure in the middle of their model as well.
Okay.
So they can capture the data, like जो आप उसको टेक्स्ट दे रहे हो, जो आप उसको नंबर्स दे रहे हो, जो आप फाइलें अपलोड कर रहे हो, it ends up on their servers ना, and then they process it and then pass it on to their model, and the response the model generates, they have access to that as well. So वो जो data और privacy के जो concerns हैं are actually arises a step above the model layer. ठीक है, कि वो यहाँ पे जो हो रहा है वो डेटा when it ends up here on OpenAI servers or cloud servers, वो यहाँ पे सारा मैजिक है. So like when you're hosting this model, you host the infrastructure as well, the whole infrastructure, and your data never leaves your premises or your tenants.
I think that makes sense. I have a separate session on the compute requirements for hosting, let's say 70 billion parameters.
Yeah.
And getting the domain tuned intelligence out of it. उसके लिए मैंने एक separate, क्योंकि there's a big topic that needs attention, that is compute. Especially जब आपके पास compute की options भी बहुत ज़्यादा ना हो. So how to use it? 8 billion parameters, for example, it works with a certain level of compute. That's great. One of the things that I think I want to end with is कि people are not getting LLM, so they think, well, lots of talk about कि यार ये तो next work predictor है. So I really want to share this story between Jensen Huang and Ilya. So Ilya Sutskever was telling Jensen Huang के I mean, think about any crime thriller, and in the last page, and there is a last line जहाँ पे जिसने murder किया उसका नाम reveal होना है. Up to that word, you give all the context. You have all the context. And now imagine कि वो जो last word है, basically वो जो crime thriller का नाम है, that's the next word predictor, right? If you see this scenario, then human intelligence exactly is a next word predictor based on the context. So I think ये जो large language model पे चीज़ आ जाती है कि it's just a next word predictor, it's unfounded. ये ऐसा नहीं है. I think it's severely underhyped.
मुझे लगता है कि इसको ऐसे देखना चाहिए ना कि वो जो नेक्स्ट वर्ड प्रिडिक्शन है, जस्ट फॉर आप उसको लिटरल सेंस में ना लें. डज इट मेक्स यू स्मार्टर और डज इट मेक यू डमर? It makes you smart. ठीक है, something that it can do hundreds and hundreds of times faster. Why not use it to your benefit? Like जो मैं कह रहा हूँ, आप टाइम बचाएं, like save that time for yourself. It's far better कि आप थोड़ा 2 घंटे बैठ के रिलैक्स करें then do something that an AI model can do 100 times faster and 10 times better than you.
ये जो टाइम बचाने की जो आप बात की थी, I was listening to Mamoon Hamid. Mamoon said कि we're not thinking of AI, because जब Kleiner invest करती, not thinking of AI just like कि ये सिर्फ एक certain class को improve कर देगा. To think when they are thinking in terms of labor. This would take a lot of labor away from the people.
Exactly.
I mean, I have this lens कि अगर आप कोई काम नहीं करना चाह रहे, AI वो कर लेगा. You don't need to. For example, one of the example, we do a lot of hiring, pre-vetting जो है. No one wants to take 300 interviews to hire one guy. I think that's a classic use case कि आप AI को कहो कि वो आपको hire करके दे based on certain context and situation. I think yes, it's not only about intelligence, it's about the labor, taking away labor from something we don't like.
Exactly.
Incredible.